Welcome, Model Railroad Talk fans, episode 91. In this episode, you guessed it, we talk about trains. Nah, just kidding. Well, we do, but we go over some ideas, making lists and stuff to keep you motivated. Uh, and doing some work actually will help keep you motivated, especially if you're seeing a good finished product. We give you an update on what used to be the Iowa Eastern Railroad. It has now changed a little bit. So, and then we give you updates on what has been done. So stick around because guess what? We're going to get the show on the tracks. Welcome to episode 91. 91, that sounds good. Just a year ago, we were in the whatever. Last year, we started out in like the 60s and 70s and 80s, and now we're in the 90s. Almost kind of like when you get old and you look back, like, wow. So, how has your modeling been doing since the holiday season, Christmas, New Year's, all that good stuff? I know for me, I have had a big jump start. I know it feels like I'm sitting here recording this and it feels like it's been forever since I've recorded, which really it's only been, about a week and a half roughly, with the last few episodes when we recorded with our guests. It has, we recorded when the guests were available, basically. And so it's been a little bit since I recorded, so I feel kind of different sitting behind the mic. It's been a little longer than I normally am, but I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited because we are past the holidays, and I've been able to move forward with the railroad, and I'll explain that here a little bit later, what I've got done with the railroad and a few things that, we'll call there is a change a little bit in the Iowa Eastern, and we'll discuss that later. But going back to, like I said, have you been able to work on your railroad much now that Christmas and New Year's and all that is over? Or so I know some people, they still celebrate into January because they have extended families or large families, but for the most part, it's done. I know I have been, for argument's sake, full steam ahead on my railroad. And what has helped me with that, though, is I made a list. I went into Microsoft Word. And the reason why I do Microsoft Word is because I've got Microsoft 365, so I can share it across my phone, my tablet, any one of my computers, so I can access it anytime. But what I did was I made a list. And I guess my first question to you is, have you made a list for your railroad for this year? And it's not going to be, I'm not talking about a all out completely inclusive list, because as time goes, that list is going to change. You're going to be taking stuff off as you get projects done, but you're going to be adding to it as you see new things, whether it's a new structure or a new section of the railroad you're building, or scenery or whatever. And if you haven't made a list yet, and if you are a list person, or maybe you've never been one and you want to try it, I would suggest doing a list. For me, it helps by looking at the list. I have my list and I can go through it, and I don't look at it every day or anything. It sounds crazy that I said I use Microsoft 365 to make my list, so I have access across all my devices. But as an example of, like, if I'm at work and I think of something, I'll grab my notes app on my phone, I'll type something in there, but then when I get home, I will jump onto the laptop or jump onto the computer, whatever, and if assuming I remember, or find time to do it, I'll go into my notes. Okay, oh, okay, I remember what I typed here and why, and I'll add that to my list, and then I'll go through that list after I've added that, and I'll cross off anything, or I should say, delete anything off that list that has been done. And for me, in that aspect, and I guess it could work for you too if you haven't tried this, is it helps keep me motivated. Not that I'm not motivated about my model railroad. I love trains. I love model trains. So it's not hard for me to keep motivated, but I know sometimes we can get in that rut where it's like, because I do it more than I'd like, I guess, is you get home from work, whatever, you're tired, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, maybe I can do this project or this project. And then next thing you know, a half hour, 45 minutes goes by, whether you were on your phone or reading a book or watching TV, whatever. And now that half hour, whatever, 45 minutes, whatever, is gone. Well, having a list for me, because I'm guilty a lot of times of sitting in my recliner and I'll, not be doing anything, but my mind's thinking, well, I should be downstairs doing, working on that building or now putting in switch machines and this and that. And I'll grab my laptop. Well, then I'll go into my laptop and I'll see my note or my list, I should say. And then it's like, oh, well, I'll go through and do that. Then it motivates me to get up, um, go downstairs. And even if I just walk through the railroad, and we've talked about this before, even if you don't necessarily have to do something in those times, you don't have to be actually physically modeling or working on something. A lot of times I'll come down and just, especially on those days where maybe it was a stressful day at work or whatever, I'll come down and just look at the railroad, just and not necessarily admire it because mine is far from it, but look at what I've done. Where was I and where am I now? Um, and then also here I've been thinking about this section. What am I going to do here? And and I'll talk about this a little more later, but I have a spot that I actually by doing that, came up with an idea of, okay, I know I'm going to do this. So I, in turn, ended up started printing, I should say, 3D printing buildings. I can't talk, uh, for that section because it's going to be a road that goes from one point A to point B, that kind of thing. So, um, but what if you're a person that doesn't really do lists? Well, I can't answer that because I'm a person. I'm kind of in the middle. Lists help me, but on the flip side, if only if and when I remember them. Generally speaking, like if I'm at work, I can make a list. If I get a list of jobs I got to do, that's one thing because I have a notebook. It's right there. It's in front of me. It's on my toolbox. That's easy. I have the railroad list where, like I stated, it's it's accessible from my phone, my laptop that I have at work, at home here. So that's easier now making lists for anything outside of model railroading or work. It doesn't quite work for me. So what do you do if you're a person that doesn't do lists? I really don't know. Maybe hopefully you've got a really good memory and you can remember uh, what you need to do. But if you're somebody that doesn't like doing lists, please reach out to us, modelrailroadtalk@gmail.com. I'd love to share some ideas with from our listeners of if you're not a list person, what do you do to, I guess, organize the disorganization of maybe your brain and all the stuff you need to get done or want to get done on your railroad. Reach out to us. Let us know. I'd love to be able to share that. So, um, now, what else can we do to keep us motivated? Getting stuff done. whether that's a list to look at or and then you do something or whatever. Like for me, as an example, and I'll get in the details a little bit later, but I've got was it last weekend or the weekend before, I was able to had the schedule, I guess is the best way to put it, to be able to go and get more hardboard, masonite, whatever, 1/8 inch, and get it cut and get it installed. And then all this last week, and actually started laying vinyl on black or matte black vinyl on my fascia. Um, because I wanted my railroad to at least have or start to have the appearance of a finished look. Yeah, I still have scenery to do. I still have track work to do. I still have um, switch machines to put in and eventually signals. And I mean, I still have a lot left to do. However, being able to walk, for me, being able to walk into the layout area and have it kind of have a finished look to some degree, um, you know, that helps me keep motivated. Okay, I got this done. So I started working. It started out laying the vinyl on the fascia, um, as I stated, matte black, because I decided to go that color, and we'll get into that here in a bit. But I did it in a section. I'd already tested the vinyl on the fascia to see how well it'd stick, and last year sometime, just a little chunk, and it did exceptionally well. So I'm like, all right, I know I'm going to do this. So I went ahead and laid down a couple set pieces in a section, and I really like this. This looks really good. I'm excited. Well, that little test, or I should say bigger test than the first time around, motivated me enough that every night I came home, came home from work, I was either cutting vinyl or laying vinyl or both on the fascia. And even the existing fascia that's been up for a while now, um, where I had switches and toggle switches in for the switch machines. I have the key locks and stuff. I got those cut out. I still have a few on the upper level I got to hook back up, which I need to do before I really do much more. But, I got the switches reinstalled and the key switches and the toggle switch, all that stuff reinstalled. So now it's taken on an even uh, more finished look. And that alone has excited me to be able to look at the future, near future, very, very near future, like, okay, this is a real thing now. I'm getting closer and closer to having my track work done. Now, when I say track work, that to me includes having my turnout switch machines installed, toggle switches on the fascia, basically operational. So me or somebody else can grab a throttle, power the system up, grab a train, and start running. And if we need to throw a turnout, we can, whatever. Rather than like right now, I've got certain turnouts aligned certain way and using track nails to hold them, that position in place. And that's no fun. I mean, I know some people don't care necessarily about that. They'd still have fun operating, which I would too. But it's just, I guess it's the meticulous nature of who I am, the attention to detail that bugs me. Not, I don't want. It's not necessarily OCD. It's more just the attention to detail that I've got to get that done. It's just the little things for me. Um, so anyways, yeah, getting that done and getting my order of switch machines, which I need to order another pack of those, but now I've got some momentum that, okay, I've got my list. Here's what I need to do. I need to do this, this, and this. So, anyways, now we are going to move on to, you probably may have caught your ears. And if I don't have a video out by the time this episode comes out, it will be real shortly, but I'm pretty sure I'll have a video out on our YouTube channel, and I've got to do an update video on our TikTok. But keep an eye on our our YouTube channel. Go over there. It's Model Railroad Talk. Like and subscribe there so you can see our videos when they come out. I've been trying to get a video done over there every week and a half, 2 weeks. So but you'll be able to see what I've done. But your ears may have perked up when I was saying vinyl for the fascia. Um, a majority of people don't think of this. They think of, okay, what paint color am I going to use? I'm going to go to Lowe's, Menards, local hardware store, wherever you can buy a gallon of latex paint and paint. I looked at that route, and first and foremost, the main reason I didn't go that route is because I since before I got back into my railroading, I had my graphics business, vinyl graphics business, and I happen to have still a roll of matte black vinyl, almost brand new roll. So, I had it on hand. So it's not like I would go out and spend. I mean, I think I looked at cheapo paint at my local hardware store, and I want to say it was like 40, 45 bucks, something like that for a gallon, which a gallon would have been probably, if not mostly, all that I would need for my fascia and my valance once I get my valance done. But I just got thinking about it more and more. Well, if you paint it and say something happens, you get scenery on it. Well, now you're either going and it marks it up. Now you're going to have to either sand down that paint, strip the paint, or paint over top of it. And depending on how thick the paint is, if you try to touch it up, it may not look right, so on and so forth. Well, I went the vinyl route because my theory is if something happens, whether it's scenery material, like if I'm doing scenery in an area, I get it on there, or if it gets scratched, whatever, I simply just go and cut out that section that's messed up. I have more vinyl. I've got a plan, I should say, to have um I don't know what you can call it, like patch pieces, if you will, cut. So if something like that happens, I just go get a piece, cut out the bad section, lay the new section right in, and like it never happened. Now, eventually, yes, if I as time goes on and I continue to have to do that in one section, yeah, you're going to have piece after piece after piece, small pieces. That is, you may want to take all that up and relay a big long piece. But the biggest thing with vinyl, if it's something that you hadn't thought about and you're like, look at the cost of that compared to and figure out how much you're going to need. As an example, my roll that I had was a 50-yard roll because I used to do vinyl graphics, and it was 24 inches wide. Well, for my upper fascia, it's a 4-inch wide or tall, however you want to word it, 4 inches for the fascia. So I ended up having to cut. I ended up cutting my vinyl 6 inches wide, so it gave me an inch play as I was laying it down, and it gave me a little room. Went back, touched it up. Also with vinyl, you have to know how to work with it a little bit. Heat does help, but if you've never used, whether it's a heat gun or like me, a torch with vinyl, you can mess it up. But heat is a good thing. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm thinking about doing a YouTube video on it, but it's not necessarily for somebody that has never laid down vinyl graphics or been around it, I should say. If you watch YouTube videos, there's people I'll show you how to do it. If you do decide to go that route, test it out on some a scrap piece of, you know, uh, masonite, hardboard, whatever, and try it out first. Price wise, I would say I'm trying to remember, but I want to say that that roll of matte black vinyl, it wasn't a full roll. I'd used it for other stuff, but I want to say there was probably 2/3 of the roll there. But a full roll of that like cost me $110 several years ago. So yes, the gallon of paint is less, but it's what I had on hand. So at the immediate time, I didn't get, I didn't incur any extra cost because I had already paid for it several years ago. But vinyl is definitely a way you can go if you have a smaller railroad. Maybe you have a 4x8 or maybe, or, 4x8 or slightly bigger, whatever, and you have fascia on there, you could definitely go on Amazon or find a local sign shop that may, measure it out, figure out, okay, how tall and how long. And you could, in a sense, have a local sign shop make you the pieces for it, or at least get you the roll of vinyl and cut it yourself and put it up. But I really like the look of it. I like the idea of it. Um, it's easier to replace. If I have a section that goes bad, I just take, you can use I use a Olfa knife for my vinyl, but you can use a hobby knife, just a straight edge cut around the area, literally pick it up, pull it off. Yeah, you're going to pull some of the fascia, that smooth side, a little bit off, but as long as that's not super rough, you're going to be able to lay right back down over top of it. And that's all it is, rather than having to open up the paint, shake the paint can if it's been sitting there for a while. Um, maybe you got to sand down the area because the scratch is so deep. Okay, well, now you do that. Now you're creating more dust on your railroad, especially if you have scenery right there. So the vinyl for me was just a great way to go. And while I was at it, actually, I had uh, downloaded some Kansas City Southern logo and had created stickers out of it. I'd purchased off Amazon quite a while ago a pack of sticker um, print on sticker sheets, and the main purpose for that was is when I start working on my buildings and start getting my buildings done, I can create signs for them, and just stick them on. And if I like it, okay, I can look at a more permanent route, but it'll at least get me by. And so I ended up creating, I'm like, I'd like some Kansas City Southern stickers. So I printed some off. I used they over top of it, not only for color, but for protection. They have those self laminating sheets you can buy where you put piece on the back, piece on the top. You don't need to heat it. You just push it down, right? Well, I just put that on the one side of this sticker sheet, cut out my stickers with some scissors, and I had, those made and put those up all, not all over, but in certain spots on the railroad. And it really adds a nice touch to the railroad, another finished look beyond the being that the fascia is colored rather than just one single color. Um, I'm in the process of making my fascia signage, for lack of a better term. For like my switches, towns, stuff like that, and I'm doing in the same exact way, using colors based off of that sticker that I printed, and using actually Word document. And once I get that all said and done, I'm printing them out and sticking them on. I'm like printing them out on sticker paper, and that way they just stick. And then if I have an issue, I can peel them off and change them. So the other thing that before I want to jump onto this before we take break, but um, the color I went with. I've seen layouts with black fascia. I've seen them with green. I've seen them gray. I should say variations of green and gray. I think I even seen one, not personally, but like through magazine or video, where they use blue. There's all sorts of colors, and some people just leave the masonite too. Some people like that look. There's all sorts of colors to go with, and my choice of going with I thought about going gloss. However, I didn't want the shine of the layout lights to reflect or in any way, shape, or form off of the fascia, which to me can take away from the operating experience. So that's why, first of all, I went matte for a color. I didn't go straight flat because vinyl, just like paint, flat. If you bump it lightly with, say, your arm, there's going to be a mark there. You can still get that a little bit with matte, but not as bad. But it also rubs off, or with a paper towel or your hand, way easier. So, but I went black just for the sole fact that once my valance is done, I'm going to do that in matte black as well. Already, I can tell the difference between my lower level and my upper level. the difference when I'm looking at the trains. I'm focused in more on the trains. That's why I went the color black. Not cutting down anybody that does any other color, green and stuff. I know um, Tony Bowen, awesome modeler and a master model railroader. I watch his videos on YouTube as well. The Corn Country Rails. He has green, and his layout looks amazing. That works for him in his layout room and his lighting. For me, the way I plan on operating, I prefer to go the matte black route because I like the shadow box look. I like the effects of that. Um, so that's something to think about too. If you're new into the hobby, or you're just starting your railroad, not anything you need if you're just starting a railroad, you don't necessarily need to think about it right now, or do anything about it right now, but start thinking about it as, do I want just the 2x4 or wood look, I guess is the best way to put it, whatever you're using, 1x or whatever. Do I want that wood look? Am I just going to paint that? Or should I go with, say, like the hardboard fascia, like a lot of people do, and it gives it a little bit, in my opinion, it gives it a little bit more of a finished look, no matter what color you go with, and no matter whether you go vinyl or paint, whatever. But just something to start thinking about ahead of time. Sorry about that. My little box just dropped on me. Um, if you're in that stages, and especially if you're doing just like a smaller 4x8, or maybe you're doing a couple 4x8s together. I know in several of the groups I am, people are expanding their 4x8, in HO scale by moving, and like Benjamin, who is now, you heard him on here. He's changing things up with his railroad, and I've been in constant contact with him about it. And he's adding extensions. You know, even his movable extensions or modules. Somebody like that would benefit from doing a fascia. Not only does it allow a person or allows the layout to look more finished, but it can hide your wiring and stuff as long as you cut it tall enough. Let's say you're using 2-inch pink foam. Well, go get yourself a sheet of hardboard, and you're using 2-inch foam, and then you have, let's say maybe you're doing 1x4s. Okay, well, there's 6 inches. So cut it to like 8 inches tall, 8-inch strips, and put it around it. And that's going to give you a couple extra inches to be able to hide wiring or anything under the railroad or switch machines or whatever. So think about that. If you're in the new stage, I wouldn't worry necessarily about jumping right on it right away, because you've got a lot of other things that you need to worry about at that point. But there will be a point in time with your railroad that you're going to start thinking about that. So we are going to take a break, and when we get back, I'm going to give you some updates on the Iowa Eastern Railroad, which in some aspects is no longer. Okay. So yes, you heard that right. So, and then we have our interesting train facts, 400 of those thrilling and interesting train facts that we're going to read one from here at after, or I should say in the second half. So stick around, because we're going to take a break. We've already got the show on the tracks. Wow. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back shortly. Are you interested in operations? Are you new to operations? Are you a seasoned operator? Consider joining the Operations Special Interest Group, or OPSIG. The OPSIG is an organization dedicated to operations from the experienced operator to the novice. Their principal purpose is to discuss, develop, and disseminate ways of operating model railroads to realistically emulate practices of the prototype. This includes sharing information on various methods of generating, moving, and controlling traffic to heighten the feeling that our models are an active and integral part of the national rail transportation network, serving shippers and consignees throughout the nation. Their membership is a tremendous resource to exchange information and ideas, and to develop improved ways for hobbyists to learn the art and science of operating a railroad in a particular model railroad. Their quarterly publication, The Dispatcher's Office, is another great resource. It's loaded with articles about operations, including paperwork, planning, execution, and hosting of sessions. Annual membership is only $10 per year. Membership includes 4 issues of the Dispatcher's Office e-version, access to their Dispatcher's Office archives, an industry database to help add realism to your operations, and a directory of operating layouts across the country. If you like to operate or are just becoming aware of this exciting and growing part of the hobby, this is the place. All are welcome. You can find them at www.opsig.org. That's www.opsig. If you are enjoying our podcast, we'd like to invite you to go over to patreon.com/model railroad talk and become a premium supporter over there. All sorts of details over on the Patreon page of ours. Also, if you don't want to get into something that's a monthly thing, but you would like to, hey, I'd like to throw a little support your way, you can always head over to buymeacoffee.com/MODRAILTLK, short for Model Railroad Talk. And you can donate as much or as little as you would like without any monthly reoccurring or anything like that. So if you would like to support us, head on over to patreon.com/model railroad talk, or you can head on over to buymeacoffee.com/MODRAILTLK. And to those that have supported this podcast, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. We are back from break, and I'm glad I took a break because it helped me kind of add a few things that I wasn't thinking about when I made my list for the episode, and I'm glad I did that. So thank you for sticking around. So to move on, as it's been stated, the Iowa Eastern Railroad, in a sense, is no longer. Basically, it is now the Kansas City Southern Iowa Eastern Division. And then I've got Egremont Subdivision and Montana Subdivision, which those, as far as the railroad goes itself, physical railroad, model railroad, it's the same. But the story behind it has changed a little. And it basically, the Kansas City Southerns, several years before they merged with the CP to be able to become the CPKC. The Kansas City Southern purchased the Iowa Eastern Division, working their way north, and basically, or the Iowa Eastern Railroad, and just incorporated it as the Iowa Eastern Division. So that's how I guess let's start with, that's why I like freelance. Even though I'm proto freelance, I consider myself proto freelance, and the fact that the prototype, I am the only prototype I'm doing is unit specific details on, so like locomotives. I'm doing the research on particular locomotives, looking up at details, trying to find as many pictures as I can. Prime example, my one KCS Grey Ghost Snoot Nose SD40-2, I should say. I discovered from that they had moved the air horns from the cab to back by the dynamic brake section. Doing stuff like that. And eventually I will be weathering based off of, I'll find the best photo, or the photo that I like the best of that locomotive, and it's weathering and weather to that. Same with rail cars eventually. I haven't done any detail work on rail cars yet, because I consider that something that down the road, once my railroad is, and we've stated this before, your railroad is never complete. But once, I'll say a majority of my scenery is done, my structures are up, for argument's sake, it's an operational railroad. I can do operating sessions, and and actually have buildings there, not just little paper name plates, if you will. Um, I at that point in time, I can start taking my cars and looking up that reporting mark and trying to find pictures of that particular one, and then I can, well, what details? How's it weathered? What's the weathering look like on it? If the weathering's, maybe the weathering's, maybe it's a later photo, a newer photo, and I don't like how heavily weathered it is. Well, I'll find one, maybe it's not as weathered, and I'll do that. So that's where my proto is. The freelance part of it is in the track plan, the story, stuff like that. So that's why I really like the freelance, because I'm not that I'm here to satisfy anybody else other than myself. However, I feel that it, at least being able to make up my own story as the reason why the railroad is in existence, it's, for me, it's more fun, you know. It's one of those things that it's fun to do. And actually the backstory comes from a little bit of help of our good friend Benjamin Z, who was doing the Baxter Springs, but redoing it now with the information he found out that you heard here a few episodes ago. um he and where all this started is I went onto my Facebook page, which was the Iowa Eastern Railroad, and I actually changed the name. So if you're interested, the new name on Facebook page is the Kansas City Southern dash Iowa Eastern Division. Um, I changed that so everything kind of falls. It was easier to change that than to shut it down and then start a new page. And then, everybody that was following the railroad on there, they would lose out, and then they'd have to go back and try to refine it, that kind of thing. So I went through the process, which I'm telling you, it's not that easy to change. It is once you do it, but it's not that easy to find where you change a name, a page name on Facebook. So anybody from Facebook listening, make it a little easier for us. But that's that's where I'm at. And that stems from wanting to backdate a little, being a fan of the KCS. I've always been a fan of the KCS. My last railroad was, I modeled the BNSF, and my biggest thing with changing it to the Kansas City Southern pre CPKC is my last railroad. It was modern day BNSF, and for me, I felt like I had to keep up with new equipment, new paint, new logos, whatever BNSF was doing, which that can be fun because but it also can be expensive. You can acquire a lot of locomotives very quickly if you're doing that. Um, I think at one point I had over 100 BNSF locomotives and only ran, half of them on the railroad, because my railroad, while it was bigger, it it didn't warrant 100 locomotives on there, right? I mean, there might have been if we had a big operating session, but generally speaking, it just I felt when I was doing modern day CPKC, I felt as though the CP, they've got, I don't even know what all their schemes are. They got the Pac-Man, they got the two flags, and now the new CPKC logo, which I love, and I'd love to have a couple of those on the railroad, but I'm not looking now that I've kind of backdated a little. I don't have the urge as I did before to have that on my railroad, and I just didn't feel like keeping up with what modern day railroads are doing. I did that on my last railroad, and while it can be fun, it kind of locks you in, though. By doing that, it locks you into, especially if you're trying to model as prototypical as you can. It almost, for me anyways, I felt like I was being forced okay, I've got to get the Heritage. I've got these Heritage 1 and Heritage 2 schemes. Oh, they're coming out, BNSF's coming out with Heritage 3. I got to get some of those to make sure it's got the right feel and so on and so forth. And I just, I didn't like how, while it was fun, yes, it's always fun to get new equipment. Don't get me wrong there, but I felt like I was never satisfied because I was uh, always trying to keep up with what the railroads were doing. Now, fast forward to the now, I keep almost wanting to say Iowa Eastern Railroad, the Kansas City Southern Iowa Eastern Division. I don't feel that. Um, I've I'm looking back at back stuff. Kansas City Southern, obviously, no longer, they're CPKC. However, I feel like I have more time to figure out, okay, what kind of locomotive do I want? Like I just recently got in another Athearn Blue Box. It was new, SD40-2 Snoot. Um, it's Gray Ghost, and it's, I think, number 688 or something like that. But I still have to install decoder and do all my stuff to it. But this is stuff that you can find, and it's not super expensive, but it also, by going backdating, I'm able to find, like I said, Athearn Blue Box. It's hard to find new day equipment, modern day equipment, that's not ready to run. And I mean, while the blue box it's not for me for being DCC. Now on the flip side of it, yeah, I do love getting in. I do love the manufacturers that have the sound already equipped, and and all that good stuff. Um, and I don't look forward to someday down the road installing sound decoders and speakers in, but I'm up for the challenge. But that's part of it. And so that's where, like I said, Benjamin helped me with this. Okay, by backdating it, here's maybe the KCS bought the Iowa Eastern Railroad pre merger, and I kind of added to it. Well, KCS was moving north a little bit, just slowly, and there we have it. Um, so yeah, that's where that is at. Um, and with the railroad, though, like I stated, I got in I ordered a 12-pack of Circuitron Tortoise switch machines, only to find out, um, which I knew that wasn't going to be enough, because eventually I've got some switch turnouts in the original part, the Egremont yard, that are caboose industry ground throws, and then using the slide switches, we've talked about in early episodes, and same with our YouTube channel. I showed those too, that I eventually would like to switch over and have everything um, toggle switch to control it. Actually, recently I was talking to somebody, and they're like, well, do ground throws where you can reach and use those. And I thought about that too. However, if I have somebody coming over, especially if they're a new operator, I want it to be easy. I don't want somebody to have to search, okay, well, is this a ground throw or is there a toggle? I'd rather it just be, okay, well, here they're all in the fascia, you know, um, have them labeled, which way is which, that kind of thing. And so anyways, I found out that well, I'm probably going to need at least another 6 more, if not another 12 pack, which fine, in due time. However, in due short time, because with the 12 pack I got, and getting my Montana yard almost 100% up and running, I won't have enough switch machines to do that. So I've already got a plan in place to be able to get what I need done to be able to start operating and actually running mini operating sessions. I've been doing them, but they're far and few in between, because it gets old taking a track nail out, sliding the points over and pushing it in, and every time you do that, you take a chance of slipping with the pliers and damaging the turnout, that kind of thing. So I want to alleviate that risk. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping within the next couple months to be able to order another 12 pack, but I have a lot of work to do because my switch machines, I solder in wires on all the terminals on it. I don't use just the two outside ones for throwing the turnout. I actually do use them in certain spots for other things. The other, the basically the relay portion of it. So I've got to get all my wires cut, soldered onto 12 switch machines, and there's, let me think, 2, 4, 6, 8 wires per switch machine to solder on. And then I've got to get my actual toggle switches wired up. We did a YouTube video on that here recently, and I've got to get several of those set up before I actually start installing switch machines. So I've got a lot ahead of me. But before that, like I was talking before about in the first half about the fascia and getting the vinyl up, it was one of those things where I was trying to determine whether I wanted to get the vinyl on the fascia or go back and get all my holes drilled and then lay the rest of that, for the toggle switches and stuff. And based on what I've done, I've got all the fascia done. Like I said, I still have to do the valance, but valance will be one of the last things to finish that. But based on what I've done, I wanted to get the vinyl up because it was kind of a pain taking all the switches out, and then when it was all said and done, putting them back in, and I just, this way it's just easier. I can drill my holes as long as I drill the fascia hole and don't go, all out with the drill. Just take it easy. The vinyl will be all right, and so on. So that is the plan. And then the plan is also converting. I still have Iowa Eastern Railroad stickers. So if anybody's interested, by all means, reach out to us, modelrailroadtalk@gmail.com. You can send us an email with your address, and we won't spam you or nothing like that. We won't stalk you, unless we're invited. But I can send out Iowa Eastern Railroad stickers to you. It's still, I'm going to still keep the logo and stuff like that, but I've changed everything over to like the Facebook page, like I've stated, to the Kansas City Southern Iowa Eastern Division. So, um, so I still have those I can hand out to you. And also, I'm working on trying to get more and more guests. That's kind of my, um, I guess, target for this year, to get more guests on the show more frequently. And I'm trying to see, I've reached out to at least one manufacturer. I've got a few more manufacturers that I want to reach out to see if they won't help us work on kind of maybe a contest when we hit our 2-year mark. I don't know. It kind of depends. I'd like to do one, but I got to see what somebody is willing to do. So outside of that, the only other thing really I've been doing, I've been 3D printing. So I had been 3D printing some buildings because I actually figured out a portion of the railroad that I'm putting a road in. And, I should say figure out what I'm doing with that section. And I'm kind of excited about that too. It's just a process. And right now we're in a cold snap here in Eastern Iowa. And unfortunately, it's too cold to go out to the garage because it's not a heated garage to prime those buildings. So I can't really start painting them and getting them, you know, uh, uh, finished in the finished process. But I at least have the physical buildings and I have them up, and it's helping me plan out some more. I still have more work to do, but there again, I pulled from that to do the fascia and whatnot. So, and I know Benjamin, and Benjamin asked me to print some stuff for him, 3D print that is, and also I'm working with our good friend Eric, who's been on here before with his 1-inch scale GP60M. I've got a last few minute details that I'm working on trying to get printed for him because he's close to getting paint on his railroad. So if you're interested, I know he hasn't put out a video in a while on his YouTube page, but Warbonds, WARBONDS, Um, look him up over there. You can see the process of that. Um, so yeah, check out our YouTube page. I know while we are still going to do this audio podcast, I know I've decided quite a while ago that I want to focus more on the YouTube, or not focus more. I want to give some more focus to the YouTube page or TikTok. I'm going to do, it's just not as much. I'm not a TikToker. So, it's kind of one of those things. So we're going to move on here to our, from our book, our 400 plus thrilling and unbelievable train facts for enthusiasts. We're going to move on to that for right now. And this comes out of the 16th chapter, Camaraderie Among Railway Workers. And the first one, which we're just going down the list in each one every episode. So the first one is the Brotherhood of the Rails. Railway workers often form close knit bonds and develop a strong sense of camaraderie forged through shared experiences, teamwork, and a common dedication to keeping the trains running safely and efficiently. So that is this episode's um, train fact. So, yeah. Um, if you'd like to follow us more, you can always head out over to our Facebook page, Model Railroad Talk. We're going to try to, or I'm going to try to stay a little more active on that as well. The website, however, I am bringing this up because I just don't have the time to stay on top of it. I'd like to redesign the website, but I don't have the time, the knowledge, nor the funds to pay somebody to do that. So I'll give you a heads up right now. The website, www.modelrailroadtalk.com, there's a good chance it's probably going to be going away. While there are a lot of visits to it, because I see the visits, there's not really a lot of activity, which I understand. I mean, there's so many websites out there for model railroading and railroading and stuff. It's hard to keep track of all of them. I originally designed it for to be a safe place as far as not allowing negativity and stuff like that. Uh, um, amongst the model railroad community, and a place for people to be able to go and ask questions and get responses, that kind of thing, like any other forum. But there's so many other great forums out there that the website's probably when I have to go and renew, which I'm not sure if it's this year or next year. When I have to go and renew the web address, I'm probably not going to, or I might keep the web address, but I'm probably not gonna keep the website, just because there's not enough activity I see on there to be able to warrant keeping it. But that doesn't mean we're going away. Like I stated, we have our Facebook page, Model Railroad Talk. We are on TikTok, in fact, under Model Railroad Talk. We are YouTube. That's our second biggest social media source outside of this audio podcast. And then Facebook would be the third. But YouTube, you can go over our channel over there, Model Railroad Talk. Like and subscribe over there. Like us on, or subscribe us, or whatever it is. Follow us. There we go, on TikTok. That's what it is. While we are on Instagram, we don't. I don't really. I post there once in a while. I'm not. Everybody's got their thing. That's the thing. I'm not really a big TikTok person. I'm not a big um, Instagram person. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, if I had somebody that was into those things, I would say, okay, here's the content, take care of it, but I'm not. So, but you can also, we have our Patreon, which is www.patreon.com/model railroad talk. If you would like to become a premium supporter there, there are some added benefits with that, by being a premium supporter. And then we also have our buy me a coffee page. that if maybe you just want to do a one-time donation, you can do that, or support donation, and that's over at um, Buy Me a Coffee, and that's MOD uh, R. I'm trying to even think. I can't even think what that is right now. Um, but anyways, you can find us over there under Model Railroad Talk. I know I should have had that set up. Um, it's unfortunately I should know it. I do, but unfortunately, Buy Me a Coffee didn't allow me to. Um, I guess the best way to put it, Buy Me a Coffee didn't allow me to pick Model Railroad Talk, so I had to do some abbreviations. But you heard it in the ad. But that's one of those things over there where donate whatever you feel, or I should say support whatever you'd like to feel you'd want to support. That goes to help us, like this year coming up here in another couple months. I got to renew this program that I record this on, and eventually upgrading equipment and that kind of thing, and hopefully someday start actually being able to do giveaways. But um I'm working on it. So I want to thank you for listening to this episode. um like we've stated, you can reach out to us, model railroad talk at gmail.com. While, yes, you can go to our website, www.modelrailroadtalk.com. Find us on YouTube. That's the biggest thing. YouTube, we're over there, Model Railroad Talk. So, and also check out our Facebook page for what used to be the Iowa Eastern Railroad. It's now the Kansas City Southern Iowa Eastern Division on Facebook. So we've been trying to put some more. We've been trying to keep updates going on there for those followers that are interested in the railroad. So, yeah. So thanks for listening to this episode, and until the next time, you know it. Keep your train on the tracks.